This is Wallet Brief, where we break down what actually moved the U.S. economy this week, without the noise. If prices, interest rates, jobs, housing, or taxes are quietly changing your money, this is where you stay informed. Let's get into what really happened this week, and what it means for your wallet. Over the past year, the U.S. sales tax system became increasingly fragmented and complex. 2025 saw 681 total sales tax rate changes, one of the highest annual totals in more than a decade. 335 new taxing jurisdictions were created, the most in over 10 years, as cities, counties, and districts looked for revenue. States facing budget pressures began expanding what they tax, adding digital services, new fees, and local levies. Some states cut taxes on groceries to help families, while others increased rates to close budget gaps. The trend was clear. Sales taxes were becoming more local, more specialized, and harder to track. This week brought the biggest single wave of local sales tax changes so far this year. 285 rate changes took effect in February, affecting cities and counties across Texas, New Mexico, Louisiana, Illinois, Ohio, and more than 20 other states. Most were increases. Washington State launched a new voluntary disclosure program on February 1st, targeting online sellers and marketplaces that haven't been collecting sales tax. The program runs through May and offers to waive up to 39% of penalties for businesses that come forward. Louisiana also implemented its new combined state and local sales tax return this week, simplifying filing for businesses that operate across multiple parishes. And critically, states began realizing the impact of grocery tax eliminations. Arkansas and Illinois both ended their state-level food taxes in January, but many local governments are now replacing those revenues with their own grocery levies. The bigger picture shows a historic shift toward localized taxation. After 3 years of decline, the average state sales tax rate increased slightly to 5.56%. But that number hides what's really happening: the explosion in local taxes. Cities and counties are creating new taxing districts at the fastest pace in 10 years, often to fund specific infrastructure projects or services. A single zip code can now contain multiple overlapping tax rates. States are also expanding their tax base. Maine just started taxing streaming services, and more states are expected to follow. Meanwhile, economic nexus rules keep tightening, forcing more online sellers to collect tax. The signal is unmistakable. Sales tax complexity is accelerating, driven by state budget gaps and the ongoing shift from income taxes to consumption taxes. For everyday shoppers, this week's changes are subtle but real. If you live in one of the 285 jurisdictions with rate increases, you're now paying an extra quarter to 50 cents per $100 spent. Not huge, but it compounds. If you shop online, you're more likely than ever to see sales tax charged at checkout, especially from smaller sellers who are getting swept into state compliance programs like Washington's. Grocery shoppers in Arkansas and Illinois are seeing state tax relief, but many are also seeing new local taxes pop up on their receipts that offset the savings. For businesses, the compliance burden just got heavier. Tracking which county or district applies to each sale is becoming nearly impossible without automated software. The practical takeaway is this: your checkout total is influenced by more tax jurisdictions than it was a year ago, and that trend isn't reversing. Next week, watch for two things. First, more states are expected to announce mid-year budget adjustments in late February. If revenues are falling short, new sales tax proposals could surface quickly. Georgia, Kansas, Pennsylvania, and Wyoming are all considering expanding their sales tax base to cover more services or products. Second, businesses should pay attention to Washington's disclosure program deadline. It closes May 31st, and the penalty waivers are real money for companies that haven't been collecting. If you're a consumer, keep an eye on your receipts, especially for groceries and online purchases, because local governments are actively looking for new revenue, and sales taxes are the easiest lever to pull. The changes don't stop, they compound. That's your wallet brief for this week. These changes don't always make headlines, but they do change how much you pay, save, and earn. We'll be back next week with the updates that matter. Until then, stay informed and protect your wallet.